Hi, my name's Austin. Welcome to my channel. I was doing some research the other day, and I learned that the average American or the average gringo saves 5.1% of their income. And what I think that means is the average American ain't trying to save any money. I think the average American looks at their finances this way. I make $4,000 a month, so I have $4,000 a month to spend. Every once in a while, I have some extra money left over, so I'll save it in case I spend more than $4,000 next month. I got a raise. Well, I have to start to find new ways to spend that extra money. You only live once. And that's true, you only live once. So you should have some extra money in savings so you don't have to spend your whole life being controlled by the man, and so you can stick it to the man and beat the man at his own game. Now, I know this isn't true for many people and wages are low and stagnant, but I think for a lot of people, you could double, triple, or quadruple your savings rate if you just take some time to manage your finances. And I think that a lot of people have problems with their finances simply because they're not taking the time to manage their finances. So in this video, I want to explain the exact strategy that I use that allows me to save 60% of my income. And I think that if you incorporate some of these steps in your life, you could possibly double your savings rate. So I'm going to talk about my strategy, and it's going to consist of 4 steps. Step 1, the preparation. Step 2, understanding the process. Step 3, the execution. Step 4, managing money. And step 1 is the preparation. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is the preparation leading up to saving, because you can't just start saving money. It ain't that easy to save money, ladies and gentlemen. In order to maximize the amount of money that you can save, you need to do the first thing, and that is just track your expenses for 1 month. And you do this so you can see exactly how you're spending your money. I mean, how are you going to save money if you don't know where your money is going? So in order to do this, there are many apps, but I prefer to use a simple Google Doc because I am a very simple person. And I don't want to use an app or spend money on an app to try to save money because I think that's a little bit counterproductive. So let me show you the Google Doc that I have created. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Google Doc that I use. And if you would like a copy, Compliments of Augustine, link in the description, use at your own discretion. But as you see, it is pretty basic. I have the date, expense category, and the amount. And with the expense category, there is a drop down to choose. And when you choose, then it comes over here on this chart so you know what category is how much you're spending on each category. And then the total over here. So whenever you add a dollar amount, it comes to the total so you know exactly how much you're spending that month. It's that simple. So before you start saving anything, you need to spend 1 month writing down every single expense down to the penny so you know how you're spending your money. And it doesn't matter how small the expense is, you need to mark it down because every penny matters. And that's the first thing that you have to do. And once you spend 1 month writing down every single expense that you make, then we can move on to the second step, and that's understand the process. Once you have that sheet completely filled out with 1 month's worth of expenses, before we start the process of saving money, we need to understand the process of saving money. And the process is very simple, but it takes some time, some research, and some creativity. In the process, you need to do 3 things. The first thing is examine every expense one by one. The second thing is lower or completely cut out the expense. And the third thing is calculate and save the difference. So very quickly, I'm going to explain these 3 things, these 3 tasks that you need to do to save money. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm only going to explain it once, so listen and listen very carefully, all right? The first thing is examine every expense one by one. You need to examine every expense one by one to see if it can either be lowered or completely cut out. Now, there are expenses that are very easy to change, and there are expenses that are extremely difficult to change. So I go in this order. So first, I look at the easy to change reoccurring payments like my cell phone plan, subscription services, memberships. The second thing I look at is the frequent habits that cost me money, like unconscious behavior, unnecessary services, delivery services. And the third thing is the more difficult things to change that are reoccurring payments, like rent or my car bill. So basically, you're examining every single expense from the easiest to change to the most difficult to change. And then the second thing that you need to do is lower or completely cut out the expense. And when you examine your expenses, you go one by one and see if each expense can either be lowered or completely cut out. And how do you do this? You look for cheaper alternatives, you do some research, or you might be able to completely cut it out because you're not even using it. And cheaper alternatives do exist. There are cheaper alternatives to a lot of things, but you don't hear about them as much because these companies don't have massive advertising budgets. So look out for them, do the research, or you might find an expense that you're not even using and you can just completely cut it out. So you do that one by one. And when you find something that you can either cut out or lower, then you do the third thing, and that's you calculate and record the difference. Now, when you find something that you can save money in, you need to calculate and record the difference so you know how much money you're saving. Now, how do you do this? Well, because I'm a kind person and I care about you, Agustin, te amo, I created a document, a simple savings document that you can use to track how much money that you're saving. Link in the description, use at your own discretion. So let's go to that document. Again, I am a very simple person and I do very simple things, and I do not believe in overcomplicating anything. So this is the sheet. You have expense, amount saved per month, and over here the total amount saved. So for example, if I saved $30 a month on my cell phone bill, I would write cell phone bill and then put $30, and then automatically it comes over here. It's very simple. So that document will help you see how much money you could be saving if you cut out or lower certain expenses in your budget. And the key is finding things that you can consistently save money on. So that's the process. The first thing, examine every expense one by one. The second thing, lower or completely cut out the expense. And the third thing, calculate and record the difference. So now that we know the process, let's put the process into practice and do the third step, and that's examination. So here comes the moment that you've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to start saving money. So we're going to go one by one in expense from this mystery person's budget to see if there are any ways that we can either cut things out or completely lower them. And the biggest mistake that you can make in this process is underestimating the power of saving one single dollar, because every single dollar counts. So let's start looking at this budget, and let's start by looking at the easy to change reoccurring payments. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got this mystery person's budget that we're gonna look at to see if we can find any ways to save money. So the first thing that I see is they're spending $4,225 a month on their expenses. Sounds like a sucker to me, and sounds like there is a lot of areas that they can save. So let's first look at any reoccurring monthly payments that are easy to change. So right here, I see a cell phone bill for $50 a month. I know if you switch to Mint Mobile, you can get it for $15 a month. There is $35 worth of savings right there. So for the sake of time, we will just write $35. And we have 3 streaming services right here. Why don't you just keep the one you want and cut out 2 that you don't use? There is another $15 of savings right there. What about some expensive habits that this person might have? Well, let's look at the chart. Well, I see they're eating out $350 a month. They could easily cut that in half and maybe save $175 just by eating out a little bit less and maybe bringing some food to work. All right, maybe cut out money with groceries. They're spending $271. Get some generic name brand stuff, generic brand, save $70, I think, very easily. You have to put it into practice though. Now, let's look at any of the big expenses that can possibly be lowered over time. So it looks like they have a car payment. If you have a car payment, you should never have a car payment because you could just buy a cheap car for about $5,000 that will work fine. So maybe if they sell that car, get a cheaper car, they can cut that in half. So we're just going to put another $200 in savings. So let's look at their rent. $1,500 in rent, ladies and gentlemen. Can you imagine spending that much money? Maybe next time the lease ends, move to a smaller place or find a roommate where you can save money. So maybe if you can look for a cheaper place and live with a roommate, you could save $500. And that's basically what you do. Obviously, it takes time. I'll be honest, I planted some of those. But it takes time, it takes research, and it takes thinking outside the box a little bit. But you will probably be shocked on how much money you can save because you're probably overspending, you're probably wasting a lot of money in a lot of areas. And it's important to realize that saving money isn't about depriving yourself of things. It's just about cutting out or lowering expenses to keep the same quality of life because a lot of people are overspending money. It's just about living a conscious life. And once you do that and you have all your expenses tracked of how much money you can save, you move on to the fourth step, and that's money management. All right, so now that we've cut and lowered our expenses, now what do we do with that extra money? Well, we have to organize and manage the money. We have to know what money is for spending, investing, and saving. So in my example, I saved $1,000, and that was obviously just an example, and doing things like lowering rent or getting rid of a car payment are obviously not easy things to do. But when I determine the exact number that I can save, I just act like I never got that money and just add it on to my savings. And I determine an exact number that I can save that's realistic every single month because the key to saving is consistency. And then you create a financial plan that best suits your needs. Now, I'm going to explain my financial plan that I currently use, and this is obviously not financial advice, entertainment purposes only, but the first thing I did was I built my emergency fund of 12 months of income. An emergency fund is the money I have set aside in case of an emergency. And then I put that money in a savings account. And then once I completed that, and because I'm extremely conservative of how I manage my money, I put the rest in index funds and I buy them every month through dollar cost averaging. And if you do not know what an index fund is, I created a video about it. I'll link it up there. Give it a watch. But that is my strategy to maximizing my savings without depriving myself of anything in life. And as I said in the beginning of this video, the average American saves 5.1% of their income. And I just think that that's because the average American is spending their money unintentionally. But if you live intentionally and take steps to manage your money and use some of the strategies that I use to save money, then you could possibly double your savings rate or at least save more than you're currently saving. And with that, thank you so much for watching. My name is Austin. Muchas gracias. Que tenga un buen día. Nos vemos, chico.